Hello, true duelists. YGeoStrats here, nose deep in the sacred texts of Yu-Gi-Oh! So that I might become smart enough to even try and comprehend this deck. Welcome to You Should Play, a series where I talk about what it is that makes me play a deck and why I think you should play it as well. This week I'm talking about DDD, the next best deck in the meta, until that whole Zoodiac format thing happened. Big shoutouts to the TCG for pushing the structure deck back. The 2 weeks this deck was relevant were pretty cool. I'm gonna keep it a buck here, folks. This one is a bit DD different for me, in that other decks I've discussed in this series are ones that I've played either relatively recently or at very least played for some amount of time in the last couple of years where I feel confident in talking about them. But with this one, it was a request. And while I did get the deck in 2017, it was a structure deck. So like 4 other people in my friend group got it as well. And I dropped it for the sake of not playing 3 mirror matches a night. That's, locals is one thing, but with the boys it's another. So for me, those 2 weeks of meta play that this deck had is true both for the meta and for me. I got like 2 weeks with it, tops, before moving on and not seeing an issue with buying 3 structure decks for no reason. Just now realizing that that might have been a waste, but no, it was worth it for the playset of Allures. That's how the dollar works. Still, if I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because I kinda don't. I've been playing on and off with a couple of builds. Mostly I took a look at packs that topped YCS recently at the making of this video, and with older builds that I had from 2017, but it's very much amateur hour here is what I'm getting across. So we'll start with the tried and true, the cards. DDD has way too many cards to its name. Being another anime deck means it gets legacy support for its fans, and then manga cards imports and any other sort of nonsense, to the point that DD alone has 3 pages of cards, not including their spell and trap cards. What I'm saying is, this is going to be a long video. That being said, I'm going to start where this deck started, in the TCG, in 2015's Dark Legion starter deck. Yeah, that's right, this archetype started 2 years before it stood a chance in the meta, and it showed up with one singular card, DDD Dragon King Pendragon. A level 7 monster that has a special summon effect. That's good! It requires you to tribute 2 monsters with specific types to special summon itself. That's bad! It also has an effect to gain attack and destroy and spell a trap on the field. Unfortunately, it requires you to have summoned it onto the field to use it though, which is a shame because it's really cool to look at, but man is it awful to use. Clash of Rebellions would see the next bout of support with 3 new cards, bringing the total of 4. Oh boy! DD Pandora is a level 5 that has an effect when destroyed by battle, released in the same years as Pepe. But it draws you cards, you might say. Only when you control no other cards on the field. As it turns out, Pandora's box is not worth opening. Who could have guessed that was the moral of that story? They also got 2 extra deck monsters, making for the least usable archetype in all of 2015. Marksman King Tell, hope I didn't get that wrong, can be summoned using a rank 4 DDD monster and can quick effect attach a material to target a monster on field to have it lose 1,000 attack and defense, and then burn the opponent for 1,000 damage. If it's sent to the grave, it also lets you send a DDD or Dark Contract card from your deck to your grave. That effect is solid, but would not see use until the Link era. The last card from Clash was Oracle King D'Arc, needing any 2 DD monsters and making it so any effect damage you take would heal you instead. Somehow, a card that is in almost every situation a vanilla fusion is the best card of the archetype so far. Off to a good start. Thankfully, it's about to get a whole lot better. Dimensions of Chaos would drop in November of 2015 and gave the deck an actual deck. DDD got a number of cards in the set that are still played in the deck to this day, and shape the core of what the deck really is. DDD Savant Galilei is not one of them. A level 10 Pendulum monster with a scale of 1 that, in the scale, locks you into only summoning DD monsters and increases its scale by 2 during each of your standby phases, and then destroys all monsters you control with an equal or lower level. That is horrible. Its monster effect is to discard it to return a DD or Dark Contract card from the field to the hand. Can you believe that this one isn't played? Yes, you can. Moving on. The Savant Kepler is the first truly good DD card I'll be talking about. It's a scale 10 with the same effect as Galilei in reverse, starting at 10 and then decreasing by 2, and destroying all monsters you control with an equal or greater level. I don't think anyone ever scales this, and I feel sorry for them if they do. Or I don't know how to play this deck. Its monster effect, however, is to add either a DD card you control from your field to your hand, or to add a dark contract card from your deck to your hand. It is your archetypal spell and trap searcher, and it's been a 3-of since its release. It's also named for Johannes Kepler, which is a name I like to say, and therefore it's great. Some of the other good cards from Dox included Swirl Slime, who can be discarded to fusion summon a DD monster with other materials in your hand, and also banished from the grave to summon a DD from your hand. Fantastic to this day, as good as it is ugly. Necro Slime can banish itself and other materials from the grave to fusion summon a DDD monster, and it too is also good to this day. Though these days it's more of a one-of, according to everyone else who has built this deck with an understanding of it, as opposed to my bumbling net decking uncoordinated ass. 2 of their best dark contracts also saw release here. Contract with the Swamp King, allowing you to fusion summon a fiend by using materials from your hand or field, and if you were summoning a DDD monster, can also banish the materials from the grave as well. A great one-of from day one. And Contract with the Gate is there in archetypal Rhoda, meaning Kepler into Gate thins the deck by 2 cards. As continuous spells, it also means that you can do this during each turn, just as long as you don't mind taking the 1000 damage during each of your standby phases. And don't worry, you won't. Wave King Caesar is a rank 4, able to detach a material to resummon as many monsters destroyed that turn as possible, but burns for 1000 damage for each monster summoned. That's not as important as its effect to add a contract from deck to hand when sent from the field to the graveyard, which became very good in the Link era. Other decent cards from Dox included Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok, a level 8 with a scale of 5. Its scale effect allows you to summon a DD from grave if you special summon a DD monster, but doing so will cut all damage the opponent takes in half, and you yourself will take 1000 damage. Its monster effect is to summon a DDD monster from your grave when it's normal or special summoned, and it contribute a DD monster to target and banish an opponent's monster. Usable back in the day, sees less plays these days, but I still like it, and I believe it's been a consistent one-of. Contract with Errors can negate traps, an effect that got better with the rise of cards like Infinite Impermanence. And Contract with the Witch can send a DD monster from hand or field to pop a card. One of these 2 traps is better than the other. I'll let you decide which. The rest of the cards from Dox did not age nearly as well. Baphomet once saw play as a tech, its level flex allowing for potential Xyz or Synchro plays.
Not great or terrible.
And Rebel King Leonidas is a level 7 that can summon itself from the hand, and when you take effect damage. It'll then heal you for the damage you took, and make it so you take no effect damage. Take that, Trickstar! Its Pendulum effect can destroy itself in scale when you take effect damage to make it so any damage you're inflicted is gained instead. It looks cool at least, it's just a shame that it sucks donkey dick. What an unpleasant image. Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok, god I love these names, is a long name, and can return a DD or dark contract card to hand to equip an opponent's monster to itself, and then gain the attack of what it's equipped to. Unga bunga fun, not all that good though. Duodon King Kali Yuga has a heavy storm effect and can detach to set a dark contract spell or trap from your grave onto your field. Oh, and when it's Xyz summoned, it makes it so cards on the field cannot be activated and cards on the field have their effects negated. It is a cancerous as all hell card and more often sees play in degenerate decks using rank spam than it does in DDD. They also got 3 more traps from Dox. Contract Change can be used when a monster attacks to cut the monster's attack in half, or add a level 4 Pendulum DDD monster, which is a long way to say that it's useless. They also got Contract Laundering that destroys your contract spell and trap to draw the same number of cards that you destroyed and then gain 1000 life points for each, and Human Resources, which shuffles 3 DD monsters from your hand, field, grave, or even in your pendulum scales, and then add 2 DD monsters from deck to your hand. Just like Human Resources in real life and every company I've been in, this card is useless. 2016 gave us just 4 pieces of support, 2 in the Megatins and 2 in Dark Illusions. DDD Savant Nicola, whose scale effect locked you into DD monsters and could discard a DDD monster to give a level 6 or lower DD monster 2000 attack. Its monster effect is that, when destroyed in the Pendulum scale, it can return a DDD monster from field to hand to set 2 DD monsters from your extra deck into the scales. Wow.
This is worthless.
Thomas is named after a regular dude. And in scale can add a DD monster from your extra deck to your hand. Its monster effect lets you destroy a pendulum scale to summon a level 8 DDD from your deck with its effects negated, and then halves any damage the opponent would take. That one's good. The Mega Titans gave us two great cards though, especially in the earlier days of this deck's meta viability. Gust King Alexander can target a level 4 or lower DD in grave to revive it if a DD monster is normal or special summoned to your field. It really is just like a solid piece of extension. And that's sort of like Flame King Genghis. It has the same revival effect as Alexander when a DD is special summoned, and when destroyed can recover a Dark Contract from your grave. These all made for a playable deck, but players were itching to get their hands on the deck that the OCG was playing. A viable, competitive deck, able to win events and whose combo trees were legendary. And finally, with the release of the Pendulum Domination structure deck, the TCG players got their chance, giving us powerhouses like Chaos King Apocalypse. In the scale, it can banish 2 DD monsters from the grave to summon itself. And during the opponent's turn, it can destroy 2 face-up speller traps to summon itself from the hand or graveyard. That's it. It's not good. It's not why we were hyped. But what about Newton? A better scale 10 than Galilei, finally? Its scale effect can negate a trap effect that would inflict damage to you and then destroy itself. Oh, that's not very good. But its monster effect is DD Necros of Unicorn. Pitch itself to recover a DD monster or Dark Contract from your graveyard to your hand. It is better than Galilei, but that is probably one of the most useless sentences that could ever be spoken. I'm now going to speed run this little bit because apparently the deck gave us like 20 new cards, but only 6 of them were any good. So enjoy this pocket bit because even when I'm done speed running this, there's still 40 more to go. DD Recruits is a trap that recovers cards from grave to hand based on your opponent controlling more monsters than you and has never seen play. It features the man from Imperial Order and triggers my PTSD. DD Reroll is a continuous trap that protects your contract cards and can reshuffle cards from the grave into the deck. Play a fart sound, editor. Forbidden Swamp Contract King, though, with this long-ass named spell can cheat a DDD from deck in defense and fusion summon a monster using the first summoned monster as a material. And it has the 2,000 life point upkeep as opposed to the contract's usual 1,000. Like Contract with Yami Makai, which puts DD cards from grave or face-up extra deck into your scales. I don't play either of these. Proud Chevalier has scale effect to make a monster lose 500 attack and a monster effect to recover a dark monster from face-up extra deck to hand, and Proud Ogre is similarly useless. Scale effect to gain attack and a monster effect to summon a dark pendulum monster from the face-up extra deck. An effect that only got significantly worse with the additions of Master Rule 4. Supreme King Kaiser has an effect when pendulum summoned that I've never seen played in my entire life. It does negate all face-up effects, but it also needs to be played in order to do that, so damn shame. Lilith is a card with another useless effect to recover cards from the grave or extra deck. Doom King Armageddon has a useless attack gain effect in the scale and on field can gain attack equal to the attack of a destroyed monster once per turn. Ooh. Night Howl, when normal, can revive a monster from grave, and Beowulf gives all DD monsters piercing, and during your standby phase is Heavy Storm. That's the bad ones, on to the good ones. Orthos is a level 4 tuner. Its scale effect can destroy a spell or trap on field and a Dark Contract, kind of one-for-oneing with your opponent, and its monster effect can summon itself when you take damage, but will lock you into fiends if special summoned by any means whatsoever. Lamia is the fabled tuner, able to summon itself from hand or grave by sending a Dark Contract from field to grave. Simple but effective, and a tuner. Copernicus in the scale can negate a spell effect that would inflict damage, but more importantly, when normal or special summoned, will foolish a DD or Dark Contract card, which helps to set up countless plays, which I am not even aware of even half of, I can assure you. The last new card for the structure deck was Cursed King Siegfried, a level 8 synchro with a quick effect to target a face-up spell or trap on the field and negate it, allowing for negations of not just continuous spells like a Tenki searching something or any field spell, but even normal spells like Regeki or any other blowout spell that isn't named Dark Ruler no more. It also gains 1,000 life points for each Dark Contract you control. It's a fantastic card to this day, and I think he looks so cool I even put him in the thumbnail. Now, this was a powerful deck. This was a combo machine. The intricate plays, the 2-card combos, 3-card combo, 4, 5, 28 card combos you can't even begin to comprehend. NASA has less trouble figuring out how to put a man on the moon than the average DDD player has making a turn 1 board, and that's a fact. The single greatest think tank of a deck the world has ever seen. For 2 weeks, the brightest minds in all of Yu-Gi-Oh's history took to the regionals and locals across the land, and at long last, DDD was here. And then literally 2 weeks later, Zoodiac was released and immediately power crept the deck in its entirety. Turns out that a deck that can turn any one of its main deck monsters into full combo by itself is not only better than the extensive combo deck, it's also much easier to play. DDD quickly fell out of favor against the might of Zoodiac, a borderline tier 0 format, depending on whether you consider a deck playing a small Zoodiac engine as a Zoodiac deck. Still, Raging Tempest did give DDD one toy to play with. Contract with the Entities gives the player an effect depending on which type of DDD monster you summon. If you summon a fusion, you'll gain 1,000 life points. Take that, Zoodiac. Summoning a Synchro will make your opponent unable to target that Synchro summoned monster, and summoning an Xyz lets you banish a card from the field or grave. And better yet, summoning a Pendulum lets you draw one card to discard another. Oh, and it's another one of the contracts that deals 2,000 damage. This may surprise you to hear, but this was not enough against Zoodiac. Maximum Crisis gave them even more toys that I feel like I was ignorant of my entire life. DD Ghost was a level 2 tuner that, if sent to the grave, can target a DD or Dark Contract in grave to send another copy of that same card to your graveyard. And if banished, could return another banished DD or Dark Contract to your grave. Combos well enough with Swirl Slime, I suppose. Stone King Darius is a rank 3 for some reason that can quick effect destroy a contract to draw a card, and in battle can detach a material to make itself indestructible by battle, destroy the opponent's monster, and then burn the opponent for 500. Can you summon this in DD? I don't even know. Contract with the Eternal Darkness is both their trap and the type of edgy card name a 14-year-old would come up with. While you have 2 DD Pendulum scales, it makes it so your opponent cannot target any monster on the field with a spell or trap effect, can't tribute any monster for a tribute summon, or use them as materials for a fusion, synchro, or Xyz summon. Gotta love floodgates. Battles of Legends Light's Revenge gave them 2 powerfully animate boss monster cards. Super Doom King Bright Armageddon is a Pendulum Synchro, with a scale effect to target a DDD Synchro you control, and then destroy all monsters the opponent controls with less defense than that Synchro monster's attack, and burn them for 1,000 for each monster destroyed. That ain't bad. Most things have less than 2,800 defense, and Siegfried's a Synchro you'll be summoning. Its monster effect makes your monsters untargetable, and if destroyed can be placed in the Pendulum scale. It has a monster negation effect as well, but it's only usable if your opponent is playing a Pendulum monster, so it is almost always dead. Coincidentally, it's almost always never played. Super Doom King Dark Armageddon is a Pendulum Xyz with a scale effect to summon a DDD XYZ monster from your extra deck while you have another DD Pendulum in your other scale. Its monster effect makes your Pendulum monsters indestructible. When Xyz summoned, can detach a face-up Pendulum monster from the extra deck as a material, and can detach a material to destroy monsters the opponent controls up to the number of Pendulum monsters you control. And like its Synchro counterpart, it scales itself if it's destroyed. They're cool, I guess, but they don't seem very good to me. Xyz is more playable, but don't worry, power creep's a thing. We'll get to a better one later. Code of the Duelist gave them 2 upgrades. Gust High King Alexander is a level 10 Synchro that will gain 3,000 attack while you have 3 or more DDD monsters, and has the same effect to revive a DD monster from your grave when another DD monster is normal special summon like Little Alexander did. Wave King High Caesar is a rank 6 and can detach a material to negate a spell, trap, or monster effect that summons a monster and destroy it. Then make another DD monster you control gain 1,800 attack for the turn. And when sent from the field to the grave, it even adds a Dark Contract. The best part is that negate effect is not once per turn, and it is very fucking good. Vice Typhoon was the last piece of support from Code of the Duelist, level 7 with the effect on normal summon. You contribute a DD monster to summon a level 7 DDD from the deck. Also, during the main phase that it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish itself and other materials to summon a level 8 or higher DDD fusion from your extra deck. The Grave effect is fine, but I will wonder till the day I die why the level 7 had an effect when normal summoned. Thankfully, they also received a card from a manga at this point, Destiny King Zero Lapless. Its pendulum scale can add a DDD pendulum monster from the extra deck to the hand, and its monster effect is to make its attack double the original attack of any monster it battles. It will also inflict piercing damage, and the first time it would be destroyed by battle each turn, it's not. This one at least has a good summon from hand effect, able to be special summoned from hand by attributing any DD monster. It's just a shame that it's otherwise useless, because if you haven't realized this yet, this archetype has no shortage of big beater bosses. Flame King High Genghis kept the revival effect that Lil Genghis had, but also can negate a spell or trap card as a quick effect. This was the good card from Soul Fusion, with Super Doom King Purple Armageddon being the bad one. The Pendulum Fusion to complete the trio, it has an underwhelming scale effect to reduce a monster's attack, and its monster effect can target and destroy an opponent's monster and then burn them for the damage equal to the monster's attack. The other effect is a horribly specific and useless attack change, and when destroyed, it again scales itself. There was only one good DDD purple card from this set, I can assure you. Dual Overload would see the deck's first, and as of this video, only Link monster. It needs any two DD monsters, points bottom left and bottom right, and when special summoned, not just Link summoned, it can place two DD monsters from the deck into your pendulum scales, but will lock you into DD monsters for the turn. Oh, and when destroyed, it can summon a DD from your extra deck or graveyard in defense. This one is another insane card, and the ability to scale from deck cannot be undervalued, especially since you can revive it from the grave to use this effect on any turn you want to, and my god does this archetype have enough ways to do that. Go DDD Divine Zero King Rage is the anime boy, but in the card game. Look, there he is, scarf and all. The Pendulum effect prevents effect damage once per turn and lets you summon a level 5 or higher DD monster without tribute. My god, support for Vice Typhoon. I never thought I'd see it. The monster effect makes its attack equal to your opponent's life points while they have 4,000 life points or less. It cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle from damages involving it, and more importantly, you contribute a DD monster to activate one of three effects. Either make this card able to attack directly, make it so the opponent cannot activate cards in the spell and trap zone, or make it so the opponent can't activate card effects in the hand or grave. Yeah, that's right, this thing can shut off hand traps. That is also not a once per turn effect, meaning you can tribute 3 monsters to get all 3 of those if you want to. Good lord, this is a giant archetype. Rise of the Duelist gave them even more cards. I say as I'm steadily losing my voice. DD Evil has a scale effect only useful against a Pendulum deck, negating Pendulum summoned monsters' effects. Great if you're playing against a Trifonite, the cult of Triff's followers. I'm one of them, sometimes. Its monster effect is bad and I don't care to explain it. It's only good against Trifonites. DD Dog should count as a DDD monster in my eyes, but it doesn't, it's just DD. More like PP. Its scale effect can target an opponent's fusion, synchro, or exceeds to negate its effects and then destroy itself, and its monster effect negates a fusion, synchro, or exceeds effects and makes it unable to attack on the turn it's summoned. Hooray! DD Arc is another Pendulum Mirror card, destroying a Pendulum summoned monster and itself in the scale, and its monster effect is if it's destroyed by card effect, can summon a DD monster from your face-up extra with its effects negated. At least it combos with itself. Too bad that self combo sucks. Another card from Lightning Overdrive. My god, the lit doesn't take those in school. Super Sight King Zero Maxwell is a literal telescope head, which leads me to believe that we'll be getting a Siren Head monster soon enough. Its scale effect lets you make a monster's attack 0. Its monster effect changes the defense of a monster it battles to 0, inflicts piercing damage, and you take no damage from battles involving it. Maybe the Siren Head one will be better. Oh, thank God, only 5 more cards. Battle of Chaos gave 4 of them. DDD Headhunt is a trap that lets you take an opponent's monster if you control a DDD monster, and if the stolen monster was summoned from the extra deck, it's treated as a DDD monster. Decent. Dark Contract with patent license leans incredibly hard into the business theme and is a field spell. While on the field, it makes it so if the opponent summons a monster with the same card type as a DDD monster you control, so Synchro, Xyz, Fusion, or Link, they'll take 1,000 damage, and they can't summon monsters of the same card type for the rest of the turn. And if it's sent to the graveyard, it can add a DD from grave or face-up extra deck to your hand. Better than the trap, who'd have thought? And finally, a contract without an upkeep. Nice! DD Griffin is even better, a level 4 Pendulum. Its scale effect lets you give a fiend 500 attack for each contract on your field and in your grave, and will then destroy itself. That's a cute tech, but not the main reason you're playing it, because it has 3 effects as a monster, and they're all pretty great. If you control a DD monster, you can special summon it from your hand in defense position as extension. If it's Pendulum summoned, you can discard a DD card or Dark Contract to draw a card, and if it's summoned from the grave, it lets you add a DD card from deck to hand. And best of all, each of those effects is once per turn, meaning you can use more than one if you can shift it around and then revive it from different areas, which is pretty great. Divisor King Deus Machine X, a rank 10 Pendulum Xyz that in scale, while you control a card in your other Pendulum scale, can target a Pendulum you control or in your grave, summon the other card in your scale, and place the targeted monster in the scale. Kinda a scale swap effect to get whatever Pendulum effect you need at the moment. Very nice. Its monster effect is once per chain. When a monster effect is activated on the opponent's field, you can detach 2 materials from it or destroy a Dark Contract to attach the monster that activated its effect as a material. It also has the benefit of being able to Xyz summon itself by overlaying on top of any DDD monster you control. It doesn't even have to be an Xyz, it's just a free 3k beater. Oh, and it can just place itself into the Pendulum scale at any point you want during your standby phase. And lastly, provided I didn't miss any cards from this bottomless archetype, Vice King Requiem from Ghosts from the Past 2. In the scales, it can destroy any number of Dark Contracts you control and then summon itself from the scale and increase or decrease its level by the number of contracts you destroyed. Its monster effect locks you into DDD monsters, so you can't even summon the little DDD monsters. You got a big DDD, 3D, baby. But any DDD monster summoned using that card as a material will gain an effect. It can target any card on the field, shuffle a Dark Contract from the field or grave into the deck, and the target is then destroyed, and you gain 1,000 life points. Isn't that cute? Probably at best a one of, and I don't even think that. Which goes for most of this archetype, apparently. All 8 pages of it that I just read through. Now on to the other part of the video. Christ, I need a drink. Is this a fan favorite archetype? Or does it just have a lot of people who are very outspoken about it as an archetype? I honestly am not sure. It is one of the most complex decks to play. That much is for sure. That doesn't mean it's hard to play, mind you, it's just hard to play well. If you net deck a build, you can pick it up and make a board, but without practice or even a little bit of research beforehand, your boards might feel a little underwhelming, or at the very least, mine did. This can be a good thing and a bad thing, depending on how you view it. Since what are the plays to stop DDD? It's not a common deck, meaning it can give you an edge against players who just don't know what the right card to Ash Blossom or Imperm is. It's a deck with a plethora of extenders, and the contracts being continuous means you can get their effects off each and every turn, meaning things like your Rhoda isn't just a one-time thing, and you can fetch whatever piece you need turn after turn for whatever combo you feel is best, or that you can figure out. It also helps that so many of their monsters are Pendulum, meaning that they have even more effects. Griffin has 4 of them in one card depending on how you use it. And the fact that so many of their extra deck monsters have effects to summon monsters when other monsters are summoned means any sort of extender like Swirl Swime's Grave effect becomes like an extender-er. It's kind of nutty. As I've said, it's not one I'm super familiar with, but honestly that almost helps me with this video, because if you're picking it up the same way I am, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm out here learning. Like, literally, there are so many cards with so many effects, with so many applications, that it serves you best to stop and think forward about what play is best for which situation. It really feels like one of the peak decks of combo design. As someone who's always played decks like Mermail and Adamancipator, who have extensive combo trees and options to make as the turn goes on, To me, it feels like Mermail, but with the text stretched out to fit the essay limit. It's just, there's a reason this deck is the deck with the infamous flow charts that I love to use. Almost every combination of cards can get you something. You just need to be able to map it out and play towards your goal. It's a deck that really rewards a player who can play a turn or two ahead and think of a potential future line of combos if the opponent could break your board, or if they don't have a card you know to be a problem, or whatever. From the simple things like keeping a Swirl Slime in your grave, not using a Necro Slime turn 1 so you have it in your back pocket for your second turn or third one. It's a lot of fun thinking. It's a very mentally rewarding deck, if I can say. When I first played the deck, and admittedly the version I'm most familiar with, it was an engine for one of the build-a-board decks with impact. Don't get me wrong, decks like Sylvan or Mythic Rulers or Pepe had already been building boards with serious disruption on them, but with the exception of Tier 0 Pepe, DDD felt like it was one of the first ones that had some reliable teeth to it, and not one that relied heavily on staples like Soul Charge. DDD, with only its in-archetype cards, would build boards that could end on a Crystal Wing, a Titanic Galaxy, and a Siegfried, and pretty reliably too, depending on who was playing it. 3 negates in a format coming off of decks like Blue Eyes and Metal Foes wasn't exactly a joke. But despite my insistence that time is the enemy and society peaked in 2012 and something Harambe 2016, it is in fact the current year, which means DDD got newer, better toys to play with. My eyes, namely the Link, Gilgamesh. Being able to get any 2 pendulum effects on summon is unreal, to the point that it's worth playing even with the lock. It also helps that the Anime Boy card can shut off hand traps, meaning if you can tunnel into it fast enough, you can avoid the second most common DDD end board of Nibiru Token Pass. Is that the second most common end board, or am I just bad with it? Yes. And with the new Xyz, every one of your DDD cards can, if nothing else, become a 3k beater, with the deck having its own pseudo-Zeus, at least in terms of the ease of summoning it. The deck seems to have traded stronger, more oppressive end boards in exchange for even more diversity of plays and options, if such a thing were even possible. Hell, as of the making of this video, YCS Hartford was like yesterday, and DDD hit top 32. So even in a format of Sword Soul, Tenyi, and Despia, and Adventure piles, and, this deck can still put in work. It is a complex deck that not everyone understands, and if you can learn to pilot it well, you can do well with this. You don't get to top 32 at a YCS by fluke. If you're looking for a deck to challenge you as a combo player, one that'll play well enough while you're learning it, but make you feel like a master of your deck the more and more you become experienced with it and the more time you put into it, one that truly highlights you as a Chad combo duelist, give DDD a shot. It can be a slow start if you're as inept as I am at this deck apparently, but with time I could easily see this becoming one of my favorite decks. It's just something I have to keep playing and learning. And if the deck continues to feed my ego like it has, I just might. Jake and Mark, that's a fucking threat. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed, and feel free to chastise me for missing the essential 4-card combo I forgot to mention that's obviously the play to make when you open Kepler, Contract with the Gates, Necro Slime, and Ghost. Duh. And as always, subscribe to YGO Strats so you too can become a true duelist.